This is Sporting Life.
Well, Patrick, Aintree's big 3 days are upon us, and I hope you've brought some waders with you. I'm sure you're aware it's pretty wet in the northwest of England right now. It's a meeting that the Yard clearly love to support, and no Gallopin Deschamps or State Man, but overall the team coming over does look a really strong one again.
Yeah, look, we normally send a pretty small and select team over to Aintree, but I think this year we're bringing a bigger armada. Yeah, like look, none of the 9 Cheltenham winners are travelling, but there's plenty of horse there that are placed in Ramwell in Cheltenham, and a couple that missed Cheltenham that come here. So, there is obviously Willie's got half an eye on the English title, and should one of the Grand National horses pop up, we'd like to have a few other results in the bag as well, just in case.
And let's dig through some of those then. Let's look at the day one chances. For you personally, starting with Animix in the Fox Hunters. Now, I bet you've watched this back a few times because he ran really well under Danny Mullins, didn't he, when placed in the Topham a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he was third in it, and I think he was the only horse in the first 6 or 7 to carry more than 11 stone, so it was a serious run. And that's why I was always keen to try get him for the Aintree Fox Hunters when he was qualified for it. So we managed to convince Willie and Rich to keep him for it last year, but he didn't qualify in time, unfortunately. But he did win in Fairy House and in Killarney. And this year, I think Willie and Rich were happy to finish up with him. So I had to kind of take him on myself, and I've got 2 of my friends from school into him. And I snuck him back into the yard there on Christmas time without telling Willie. And so, yeah, hopefully it all works out. Look, obviously, that run in the Topham has to put him bang there. Now, I would have always said really soft or heavy ground doesn't particularly suit him. But, he wears a tongue strap. But he won it in Gore and last him out, obviously. But they went very slow that day. It turned into a half-mile sprint. Obviously, this won't be like that. But, look, he has to have a big chance.
His jumping has been a little bit sticky at times, but you're fairly confident he's going to take to this test.
Yeah, look, I think his jumping's all right. I think he's very brave. He's brave. He likes to let fly his fences. But the fact he's been around there already and jumped really well on that day, that has to give you confidence.
And later on Thursday, Baby Kate, another ride for yourself. We've not seen her since winning at Cheltenham in November. She's proven on soft ground and she's unbeaten. How's she felt coming into this one?
Good, yeah, a bunch of friends from local guys from Loughlin Bridge have released, or Loughlin actually, sorry, it's blue and white colours. So yeah, look, she won in Cheltenham in November, which handled soft ground then. The form has worked out reasonably well. This horse have won out of it without maybe showing a hugely high level of form since. We had her declared for the mayor's number, the DRF, but unfortunately she got a little setback, and then we decided to skip Cheltenham and come straight to here. Her dam Augusta Kate was second in this race, I think maybe 7 or 8 years ago. So she's got a bit of family business to finish out. But I think the soft ground was really going to suit her. She's not a particularly quick mare, but she stays very well. And I'm really looking forward to riding her now. I think there's a lot in her favour.
And other day one highlights for the Mullins Yard include Kazi Faces Sagino and Khalif de Boulay, among others, in the juvenile hurdle. She's the Triumph Hurdle runner-up. She won't go down without a fight here.
Yeah, huge run in Cheltenham. And I'd say, Masra, we think an awful lot of him. He's a big, strong gelding, and he just outstayed her. I think he just outstayed her, and in an ideal world, I suppose Danny would have loved to turn him maybe behind Masra, but the way the race fell apart, he got left in front plenty early. So I think this track will suit her a bit more. It's it's a flatter track, a faster track. She's got a high cruising speed. She is quite hot. The one thing I would be a little concerned about is in Aintree, you walk out under the stands there out of the parade ring, and a lot of horses can get very hot there. Now she's going to have a hood on, but I will be watching her there closely.
Okay, now interesting stuff. Impere Passe as well in the other Grade 1 on the card. It's possibly not the strongest race of its caliber run this season. Now, Willie says in the Sporting Life column, it's a tall order for this horse. Would you agree?
No, look, to be honest, I think if he runs to his form, I think he wins. I think as you say, he's for me, he's the horse that could be a proper standout Grade 1 horse in it. Look, the tactics backfired on him the last day. They wanted to try something different against Stateman, but he clearly didn't enjoy being in front. And if he can come back, I think his run against Tiopu in the Hatton's Grace, I think that's probably the best form on offer in the race from this season. And even his run when he beat Gaelic Warrior in the Neptune last year, I think if he comes anywhere close to those two runs, he'd be very difficult to beat. I don't think the ground will be any problem. The trip will be no problem. And look, we obviously they decided to skip Cheltenham and come here fresh, and hopefully that'll pay dividends.
I knew Willie was being just a little bit coy there. Look at me stirring the pot. You've also got Sanro and Il Était Temps. Either of those float your boat particularly?
Yeah, I do think Sanro has a relatively nice mark. I think he's a proper Grade 1 horse to come back from the handicap. I was a little bit disappointed with Cheltenham, but I do think he can be very competitive off that mark. And then Il Était Temps, stepping back up to 2.5 miles, which I think will suit him. He's never really looked a speedy 2-miler. I don't think 2.5 miles will be any problem. I think soft ground won't be any problem. And Grey Dawning and Ginny Destiny, I'd be happy for him to have a crack at them. I think his form is as good as their form. So I think he could be going into the race a little bit under the radar.
Okay, on to Friday. You've got 2 in the top Novice Hurdle. This is the 2-miler. Mystical Power could probably be the one that they all have to beat on that excellent Supreme effort at Cheltenham.
Yeah, ran a blinder. Jumped well and settled relatively well. So if you can do the same again on in Aintree, that'll be fantastic. And that was only his 3rd run yet. So he or his 43rd run over hurdles. So he has a little room maybe to improve. Again, he's a Galileo, so perhaps really soft ground might come against him. But I mean, it was soft in Cheltenham, and he obviously handled it reasonably well. So look, he sets the standard. Firefox didn't get a very clear run, so I suppose he's going to finish a bit closer. I take Dice Sardinos very seriously. I mean, her run in the Mayor's Bumper there last year was phenomenal. But I do think I'm a big Mr. Gift fan, and I think he just didn't get up the hill in Cheltenham. At the last hurdle, he was banged there, and I think this faster, flatter track. I know it's going to be stamina with the ground, but it's a flatter track with more emphasis on jumping. That's his strong point. I just think he's overpriced, and I wouldn't forget about him.
Okay, yeah, still definitely a bit of a work in progress. That's Mr. Giff in the double green silks. You've got a couple of real class acts in the top over the national fences. Now, Classic Getaway first. Where's he at the moment? He's quite lightly raced, isn't he? But he's been a little bit in and out.
Yeah, very much so. Look, he's a horse with a big engine, but he's been very fragile, and he has been inconsistent. He's put up some very strong performances, and then hasn't really backed them up. But what he is he's a fabulous jumper, and I think this track will really suit him well, just to jump every furlong for the majority of the race. So, but 12 stone is obviously going to be hard. But the horse, if I could pick one, I'd pick James the Burley here. For me, he's the ideal type for this race. High cruising speed, jumps rapid, and maybe not the strongest finisher, but again, I think a flat track will help him there. So I know he's got plenty of weight, but he's been very consistent, and I just think the extra emphasis on jumping here will really suit him, and I think he's got a huge chance.
Yeah, it sounded like Daryl Jacob, but unfortunately out injured. He had sort of half an eye on this race for this horse way back at the start of the season. There is a 3rd string to the bow. It's M. Deshi 2. He clearly handles the heavy ground, and obviously, he's further down the weights.
Yeah, Amy Deji has a proper racing rate. He'd need a career best for here, but he has been steadily improving. He's definitely he's entitled to be a better chasing about the hurdler. And with 11 stone, that has to bring him into equations. But I think the other two might have a little bit more class than he does. Okay,
there's a couple of runners in the Sefton. This is a Grade 1 over 3 miles. How do you weigh up their chances? This is Dancing City and another in the double green, Reading Tommy Wrong.
Yeah, well, look, obviously, Paul chose Reading Tommy Wrong in Cheltenham. And he's the horse with maybe the touch of class in a staying race. He came from behind in 2.5 mile lauders, and he should be ideal for a staying race because he settles. A horse that settles is worth £10 in one of these races. Nothing really came to light regards to Cheltenham. I think it's just an off day, and you can just draw a line through it. I think you should always forgive a horse one run. It's obviously not ideal coming off the back of that, but for me, I'd still back him to get back to his Nace form, and I just think he has that little bit of class that separates the really good stayers from the other horses. Dancing City is more of a galloper, more dour, and ran really well at Cheltenham. But I think a lot went right from him in Cheltenham, and he was still well beaten. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I'm going to see the improvement from him, but I could see him running another solid race without doubt.
And there's Au Castle des Mots as well. That runs in the 2.5 mile handicap on the Friday.
Yeah, look, again, I'm very keen on this fella. I thought he ran a cracker in the Betfair Hurdle. Cheltenham didn't really go to plan. It was a messy start. He ended up running way too keen. Still ran reasonably well. I really think he can make it third time lucky. I think he's well in. I think this race will suit him well, and yeah, I think he'll be third time lucky. I think he can upgrade both his previous two performances, and I think he put it all together here now on this ground, on this track, in this race.
Well, thanks as ever for your time. Thanks to you for watching as well. We'll be catching up with Patrick again before the weekend, when he'll be guiding us through the yard's confirmed runners for Saturday's Randox Grand National. But bye for now. Thanks again.
Download the Sporting Life app for the best racing coverage, including live racing blogs, fast results, stable tours, trainer and jockey interviews, expert opinion, and tips.